Let's be honest, we all have that one person, the coworker who always interrupts, the driver who cuts us off, the relative who never stops criticizing, and in those moments we feel it, the heat rising, the frustration building. But what if I told you that you never have to feel that way again? Imagine walking through life completely unshaken, no matter what anyone says or does, not because you're ignoring reality, but because you've built something stronger: emotional resilience. The first step is understanding before reacting. Most people act from their own insecurities, fears, or pain. Their words and actions say more about them than they do about you. When we shift from taking things personally to asking, what's driving this behavior, we step into a place of power instead of frustration. Second, let go of control and embrace influence. You can't control how people act, but you can always control how you respond. Trying to change others is exhausting. Instead, focus on how you show up. Lead with calmness, and you set the tone. Third, detach from ego. Many of our emotional triggers stem from our need to be right, to be respected, to be seen a certain way. But what if we let go of that? What if, instead of reacting, we simply observed? Suddenly, their words lose power, and we gain freedom. Next, master emotional reframing. What if, instead of seeing irritating people as obstacles, we saw them as teachers? Every annoying moment becomes a training ground for patience, self-awareness, and growth. If you can stay composed in the face of chaos, you've already won. Finally, choose your energy wisely. Every day we decide what deserves our attention. Do we focus on petty frustrations, or do we invest in things that make us better? The more we train our minds to let go, the less power negativity has over us. So the next time someone tests your patience, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? And if the answer is no, smile and move on, because the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest, it's the one who stays calm. We've all been there. Someone says something rude, does something inconsiderate, and suddenly we feel that surge of frustration, the heat rising in our chest, the urge to snap back. But what if in that moment we paused? What if instead of reacting, we sought to understand? Most of the time, when people act in ways that bother us, it has nothing to do with us at all. Their behavior is often a reflection of their own struggles, insecurities, or emotions they haven't learned to manage. Think about it. Have you ever had a bad day and unintentionally taking it out on someone else? Maybe you were stressed, tired, or overwhelmed, and your patience was thinner than usual. Now imagine that every person who annoys you is going through their own version of that. The rude cashier, the impatient driver, the passive-aggressive coworker. They're all fighting battles you can't see. When we recognize this, something powerful happens. We stop taking things personally. Instead of reacting with frustration, we respond with curiosity. Instead of getting offended, we start to feel compassion. And in that shift, we take control. Because when we let others dictate our emotions, we give them power over us. But when we choose to understand rather than react, we stay in control of our peace. So the next time someone tests your patience, don't ask, why are they doing this to me? Ask instead, what might they be going through? That simple shift changes everything. We spend so much time trying to control the people around us, how they talk, how they act, how they treat us. We think, if only they would change, I wouldn't feel this way. But the truth is, we have no control over others. We can't make someone be kinder. We can't force someone to respect us. We can't dictate how people behave. And yet, we exhaust ourselves trying. But here's what we can do: influence. Influence comes from how we respond, how we carry ourselves, how we show up in the world. You've probably noticed that when one person in a room is calm, others start to mirror that energy. And when someone is anxious or angry, that energy spreads too. Instead of wasting energy trying to change others, focus on influencing through example. If someone is rude, don't be rude back. That only reinforces their behavior. If someone is negative, don't feed into it. Stay grounded in your own positivity. When we stop chasing control, we find peace. Because the truth is, when we try to control others, we're really just trying to manage our own discomfort. We want them to behave differently so we don't have to feel frustrated. But real power comes when we decide that no matter what anyone else does, we choose how we respond. No one can take that from us. And once we stop reacting, once we stop letting other people pull our strings, we become truly untouchable. So much of our frustration comes from taking things personally. Someone cuts us off in traffic and we assume they're being disrespectful. A coworker dismisses our idea and we take it as an attack on our intelligence. A friend forgets to call and we convince ourselves they don't care. But what if none of it was about us at all? What if we simply removed ourselves from the equation? The truth is, most people aren't thinking about us as much as we believe they are. They're wrapped up in their own world, their own problems, their own emotions. Their actions are a reflection of what's happening inside them, not a judgment of who we are. And yet, we allow their words and behaviors to dictate how we feel. We let a stranger's bad mood ruin our day. We let one negative comment overshadow 100 positive ones. We tie our self-worth to how others treat us, and in doing so, we hand over our power. But what if we stopped? What if instead of reacting, we simply observed? What if instead of getting defensive, we chose to be indifferent? Not indifferent in a cold or careless way, but in a way that says, I refuse to let this affect my peace. When we detach from ego, we become unshakable. We stop needing validation, we stop taking offense, and we start living with a kind of freedom that most people never experience. And that's real strength. Every challenge, every annoying person, every difficult situation is an opportunity to practice patience, to strengthen our emotional intelligence, to become better. But most of us don't see it that way. We see problems as inconveniences. We see rude people as obstacles. We see frustration as something to avoid. But what if we shifted our perspective? What if instead of resisting, we leaned in? Think about it. How do you build physical strength? Resistance. You don't get stronger by lifting weights that are easy. You get stronger by lifting what challenges you. Emotional strength works the same way. If you only surround yourself with agreeable people, if you only experience smooth days, you never build the ability to handle stress, criticism, or conflict. But every time you face an uncomfortable situation and choose to stay calm, you strengthen that muscle. Instead of getting irritated when someone tests your patience, see it as practice. Instead of being offended when someone criticizes you, see it as a chance to improve. Instead of getting frustrated when things don't go your way, see it as a lesson in adaptability. The moment you stop seeing difficult people as problems and start seeing them as teachers, everything changes, because now nothing is against you. Everything is helping you grow. And when you adopt that mindset, you don't just avoid anger, you rise above it. You become untouchable. Not because life is easy, but because you've made yourself stronger. Every day, we make a choice where to place our energy. We can give it to frustration, to negativity, to things that drain us, or we can invest it in things that make us better, stronger, and happier. The problem is, most people don't make this choice consciously. They react. Someone upsets them, and they immediately give their energy away. Someone says something rude, and they carry it with them for hours, replaying it in their mind. But here's the truth. Our energy is limited. Every moment spent being annoyed is a moment that could have been spent creating, learning, or enjoying life. Imagine if you treated your energy like money. Would you spend your entire paycheck on things that don't serve you? Probably not. But that's exactly what we do when we waste hours being upset over something small. The strongest, most peaceful people aren't the ones who never experience negativity. They're the ones who are intentional about where they place their focus. They don't waste time on things they can't change. They don't dwell on what went wrong. They don't give energy to people who drain them. They redirect. Every time you feel anger creeping in, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Most of the time, the answer will be no. And the more you practice choosing your energy wisely, the more you realize that peace isn't something you find. It's something you create. No one else controls it. It's yours, and it always has been.